Welcome to A Few Thoughts About, the show where we dig into thinking and how it shapes our experience of life. Each week, I share insights and observations to get you thinking. No long lectures, just quick, thought-provoking episodes to shift perspectives so that you can make the change you want to make. Let's get into it. Well, hey, before we start the show, I want to let you know that if coaching is something you want to try and you're interested in talking to me about it more, I have one-on-one coaching slot left. No matter what it is that you want to change, if you want to change your relationship with alcohol, you want to change the way you think or the way life feels, or you just feel like doing some deep dive coaching into your thoughts and the way things feel is going to be beneficial for you, which hint, hint, it will be, I would love to talk to you. So there is a link in the show notes that will bring you to a page where you can book some time with me. I love having these discovery calls. It is very low pressure. It's just a fun chat, right? I want to know about you and kind of what's going on with your life. I will talk about my process and how it works. If it's a fit, great. We'll talk about getting started. If it's not, I'll help you find something that is a better fit. No matter what, I want you to leave that call with a clear next step. So I have one-on-one coaching slot left. If you would like that slot, go to the link in the show notes. It would be fantastic to work with you. All right, let's get going. Well, hello there, and welcome to A Few Thoughts About Transitions. This is one of those topics, and there have been a few recently where I look back over the list, which, by the way, it's been almost a year. The first official episode of this came out a little under 11 months ago, so I got to start making plans for a fun year anniversary episode. But I look back over this list of all the episodes that have come out, all of the things that we've talked about and explored together, and I get surprised that something's missing, right? And this has happened to me before. Like, I remember in, like October of last year, I was surprised I hadn't talked about comparison. In earlier this year, actually not long ago, rock bottom. Like, I hadn't done a rock bottom episode yet. And this belongs in that range. And the topic of today's conversation is transitions. And I want to be very clear in what I mean by that. What I'm talking about today are big life phase transitions where change is coming into our lives and we're moving in a new direction. Now, this can mean a lot of different things. This can be something really big, right? It can be something like, moving on to another partner or moving away from one, like a breakup. It can mean like changing jobs, or even bigger than that, changing careers. It could be just changing the kind of mode in our life. Like, we all go through phases. Like, I know I've been through phases where, life is a certain way for a while, and then things kind of get changed, and now it's another way. And it's not necessarily one big, huge issue that's changed. It's almost like the approach or the way life feels changes. And these transitions often are a sign of growth, right? It's sort of the next phase in our life, whatever that happens to be for us. And I think that's wonderful. Like, the fact of the matter is that, like, having this transition is something that allows us to kind of move into that new way of being. Like, I don't know about you, but if my life stayed exactly the way it was, say 15 years ago, and I never changed, I never grew, I'd be so fucking bored, right? That has not been the case for me, luckily. And I'm sure it hasn't been the case for you either. So why do I want to talk about transitions today? Well, I've noticed something, and this is true for me. As a matter of fact, I feel like I might be in that right now, but this is true for me, and it's true for a lot of people, is that oftentimes there's sort of the end of one thing and the start of something else, but there's this like in-between time. And it's really this transitory time, right? It's really like we're like in the middle. I don't really know how else to say it. We're in the middle between the old thing and the new thing. And not only are we in the middle, but we don't necessarily know what that new thing is going to be. Like, we're not even necessarily aware of where we're going, right? I remember talking with a friend about this years ago, and it's funny. It's like, you can kind of tell, and if you've been through this, you're going to know what I'm saying. It's like you can kind of tell that something's coming and you don't know what it is, right? And it's starting to feel a little bit like, like a snake. Like, I know I'm going to shed my skin here. Like, I know something's going to shift, but I don't really know what it is, and I don't know where it's going to. This can be very uncomfortable. And I think one of the reasons it can be so uncomfortable is the uncertainty that it sort of brings up for us, right? So imagine like it's around work. Imagine that you're feeling like, man, this is a time of transition. This is a time of change. What is it going to be? You don't really know. Look at all of the questions that brings up. All of those questions around how am I going to make money? What am I going to do? What about this? What about that? Like all of that, like it all bubbles up to the surface. And so this can feel so incredibly tense. It can feel dangerous. It can feel shaky, right? And I think for a lot of people, that feeling is something that we want to run away from. And there's a lot of different ways that we run away from it. We'll run away from it, obviously, with something like booze, which, we talk about quite a bit here. But we'll also run away from it by making a decision to make that transition end, right? And so maybe it is settling for that job you didn't necessarily want, or worse, settling for that person you didn't necessarily want. Or maybe it's, making that decision to move or making that decision to stay, whatever it is, right? We get uncomfortable in these times of transition because we really want this certainty. And oftentimes that leads us to make decisions that we can regret. And Lord knows I've done this, right? Like I've definitely been in times of personal transition, and I want that discomfort to end, that I make a decision and I go in a direction, not because, this is what I want, but because, I want this uncertainty to end. I want this transition feeling to end. And I want to introduce a different idea today. I want to talk about this in kind of a new way, in a way that, if you find yourself in this position, it might be worth paying attention to and at least considering. I want to start with the idea that transitions are good, right? And I think very often there's sort of a base case of fearing change, which is another, episode I can do down the road. But I'm just starting from that assumption that, we're in one place, we're going to the next place. We don't know what that place is, but we're feeling it, right? We're feeling that transition coming. And so what I want to offer to you is a few things. First, sitting in this sort of in-between space is part of the transition, right? So what a lot of people will do is they'll say this feels so uncomfortable, I have to stop, right? And then we make a decision, like I said, that certainly ends the transition. But very often we look back on and we regret. By the way, this is true with drinking as well. Very often, I will see people who, will start to get a month or so under their belt, 1 or 2 months, right? And so they're at the place where physically it's not really an issue anymore. The neurochemistry is studying, obviously it takes a while. But if they hadn't personally made the transition, then they're in this uncomfortable, should I drink? Should I drink? What do I do? What do I not do? Right? So it's that as well. But, let's take career for an example. If something feels like it's coming to a close and you don't know what's on the other side, it's really, really easy to say, well, I'll just keep doing this. I'll sign that contract. I'll do this thing. The reason we do this, again, is to end that discomfort of the transition. But my suggestion is that it's out of that discomfort that the new ideas emerge. And it's not out of the discomfort per se, but it's out of the space of that transition that these new ideas kind of pop up to us. So let me explain what I mean. Let's say you're in one job. Actually, I can talk about this in terms of my own experience. As I know, I have mentioned more than once that my background is in engineering, and I was an engineer for 15 years. And I tried so many different things, and it never felt right for 15 years. It never felt right or good. I worked for some great people and some great companies. It wasn't, it's not you, it's me, which is true. But I just couldn't find a fit. And then I finally came to a conclusion that my future might not be in engineering. And that was hard to accept, and really hard to accept because I didn't know what was on the other side of that, right? So here I go into that moment of transition. My future might not be in engineering. Oh my God, now what? right? How do I make money? How do I support my family? You know, how do I, all of those questions start popping into my head. And of course I have no answers. And of course it's very, very, very uncomfortable. So during that time, I had to remain open to kind of what was coming up for me. I had to remain open to the world and the opportunities that might pop up, the things that I might see that I could do. And because I was so confident that engineering wasn't the next step, I didn't really feel comfortable just like falling back on it, right? Like I knew that something else was there. And so I made a decision to sit with that discomfort and just stay open to it, stay open to life. Very often, and again, this is point one, we're only on point one. Very often what happens is in that discomfort, when we can relax into it, when we can start to see that we're safe, that's when our brain starts to come up with new ideas for us, right? And it was in that time when I realized like, okay, I can figure this out. This isn't an emergency. Like I can be a little uncomfortable. I can let this hang, and I can open my mind to some new ideas. And it was during that time that the idea of coaching popped into my head, and this was before I officially even quit my engineering job. Like all of it was like, oh, maybe this could work. And all of a sudden that transition time changed from this uncertain, difficult period to be in to a time of exploration, to a time of excitement. So the first piece is understanding that very often that uncertainty has to happen before those next steps emerge. And that when we can open up to it, that's when magic can happen, right? That's when we can start to see a new direction. So that's number one. Number two is the experience of the transition is not what it seems. I think very often, what happens in a transition is we spend a lot of time thinking, like I was saying, like, oh my God, how am I going to make money? How am I going to go in this direction? How am I going to, I was doing everything from worrying about paying the rent to how I was going to afford college for my, 4-year-old son at the time. Like I was like, I was all over the map. And so I was thinking all of these thoughts and I was experiencing all of these emotions, and it was so intense. And this is the point number two. My feelings were about my thoughts, not about the world. You've probably heard me say before that we live in the feeling of our thinking, nothing else. And that's 100% true. And the reason I know that's true is that I didn't feel that way all the time. This transition period for me lasted like a year or more. So like really just kind of came to the conclusion, this isn't for me, but I don't know what's next. That put me into that transition, and I was just kind of floating. I was still doing my job. I was still trying. It wasn't that I gave up, but it was more that like, oh, this isn't a forever thing. Like something else is around the corner for me. And then all of those thoughts would come in, and I would get all uptight. And I would get all worried. And there were many times when I like almost made a snap decision that maybe I shouldn't have made. I'm glad I didn't. But my point is, when I was feeling that way, I was feeling that way because of my thinking, not because of the world. And this is true with any sort of transition. We don't like uncertainty. You can actually go back to my episode on uncertainty, episode number 8. Oh my gosh, that was in April of 2025. You can go back to my episode on uncertainty and listen to it. But in that time of transition, I really let my brain run wild. And when my brain ran wild, what it came back with was a whole bunch of worrying thoughts, a whole bunch of difficult thoughts. And it's only when I wasn't thinking those thoughts. Back then, I didn't know all the stuff I know now. So it was only when I was distracted. It was only when I allowed myself to open up that I felt better. And it was through that feeling better that new ideas emerged. And so this entire idea of a transition, there's a lot in this one little episode. And, we can talk about it more as time goes on, but there's a lot in this episode. But the fact is that like transitions happen. And when we spend a lot of time fighting it, when we don't let ourselves be in that transitory period, maybe there's some question marks. Yeah, maybe there's some more uncertainty, but we've all lived through that before. When you let yourself actually be with it, and when you remember that the feelings you're feeling are because of your thinking, not because of your circumstance, when you let all of that sink in, then you can allow yourself to be in this transitory time, and you can allow yourself to be open, and you can be open to those things that will eventually unfold. You can be open to those things that will eventually allow you to open up and see something new. That, to me, is the magic of transition, right? Like, going back to my example, there is no way in hell I ever would have thought of becoming a coach if I hadn't first let go of the idea of being an engineer. So almost by definition, I had to be in this this turbulent time of transition. Like, I had to be in between phases in order for these new ideas to bubble up. I mean, this is what it's all about. Allowing yourself to be in transition, allowing yourself to relax into it, remembering that you're going to be okay, remembering that you've weathered things before, and not trying to run away from that uncomfortable feeling, but instead letting it happen. That can truly change everything. Well, there you go, my friends. There is a few thoughts about transition. What do you think of that? Head on over to scottpinion.com/podcast. You can send me an email over there. There's also a form if you would like to suggest a topic. I'm always open for that. And yeah, any thoughts you have? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you think I missed something? Do you think I'm way off base? Any of it, I want to hear from you. You just want to say hi? It's also good. Go ahead over to scottpinion.com/podcast. You can reach out to me there. That is it from me. Thanks so much for hanging out, and I'll be back again next week.